So last week we looked at the question, how long were the Israelites in the land of Egypt? So we're going to continue to look at that. And first thing we want to look at is the sequence of events. So we have Abraham, when God called him out of his father's house, said, leave your father's house. And so Abraham moved to the land of Canaan. And then when he was in the land of Canaan, he had a son named Isaac. Isaac had a son named Jacob, whose name would be changed to Israel. And then Jacob had a son named Joseph. And of course, Joseph was hated by his brothers, and they sold him into slavery, and he went down into Egypt. And then after that, there was a famine that caused Jacob to bring the whole family down to Egypt. And at that point, the Israelites, Jacob's family was less than 100 people. So they're all down in Egypt at that point, and then after Joseph and his brothers passed away, and that generation was gone, there was a new king in Egypt that did not know Joseph, and it says that the Israelites began to multiply greatly. And the king of Egypt was worried about this, so he put them under hard labor. And then people cried out to God to save them from this hard slavery that they were under. And then that's when Moses comes on the scene. And Moses stood before Pharaoh. We have the 10 plagues. And at the end of the 10 plagues, we have the Exodus. So now if we go back to when, let's look in Genesis chapter 15. When Abraham was in Canaan, before Isaac was born, God appeared to him and gave him a prophecy about things that were going to happen. Genesis chapter 15, verses 13 and 14. He says, God said to Abram, know certainly that your descendants will be strangers in a land that is not theirs, and will serve them. And they will afflict them 400 years. And also the nation whom they serve I will judge. Afterward they shall come out with great possessions. So we have a prophecy of a 400-year span. So we have the Exodus, where they're freed from this affliction, and from the Exodus we have a 400-year span, and we'll call that the affliction. So now if we want to look in Exodus chapter 12, this is after the 10th plague, when Moses is leading the people out of the land of Egypt. And Exodus chapter 12, verse 40 and 41 says, now the sojourn of the children of Israel who lived in Egypt was 430 years. And it came to pass at the end of the 430 years, on that very same day, it came to pass that all the armies of the Lord went out from the land of Egypt. So now we have another section of time that also ends at the Exodus, but this one goes 430 years. And this says the sojourn. Sojourn just means a temporary stay. So the sojourn was 430 years, and the affliction was 400 years. So seems pretty cut and dry, and we'll look at it a little bit more next week. If you want to prepare for next week's class, we're going to look at how old was Abraham when he left Haran and moved to the land of Canaan, and you'll find that answer in Genesis chapter 12. And we want to notice how old was Abraham when Isaac was born. You'll find that in chapter 21 of Genesis. And how old was Isaac when Jacob was born, and you'll find that in Genesis chapter 25. And the last one, how old was Jacob when he brought the family down into Egypt, and that will be in Genesis chapter 47. So we'll see you next week.